Hey guys, this is Nate with Colorado Kite Sports. Welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at the new HQ4 Empulse. So here I've got the 7-meter Impulse, which is behind me. The Empulse is HQ4's newest kite. It's going to be taking over for what used to be the HQ4 Matrix, or the Matrix 3. Probably the first questions that would come up is what are the differences from the Matrix and the Impulse. And so a couple things that I would point out about the new Impulse is it's got sheathed bridle lines. It has variable inlets, so you can roll those up. So it kind of acts almost like both a closed cell and an open cell, depending on what format you want to fly it in. If you're in the mountains, you probably want to put it in the open cell format, and obviously if you're on water, closed cell works great. It has a slightly higher aspect ratio than the Matrix did, which means it's just going to be a little more efficient. It's going to be a little bit faster, so it has a thinner airfoil profile, a little quicker turn than the Matrix, and I would say just an all-around faster kite. So it likes to turn fast and it likes to go fast are kind of the things that I've noticed, which kind of gets us into the distinctives of the kite. I would honestly relate the Impulse more to the Montana than I would the Matrix. It's just, it has that thinner airfoil with a slightly higher aspect ratio, which means it does like to go fast. So I would say the first key distinctive of the Impulse is its speed. It likes to move. I've noticed just in flying it, like my overall speeds in general have always been faster. So, you know, what I noticed in the Matrix, when I used to have the Matrix, was especially in the larger sizes, as you got to those higher speeds, you'd either be getting pulled downwind or would just kind of top out. It's like you were hitting a wall. Probably the first things I ever noticed when I took the 16-meter Impulse out was you would keep, even in like a 6 to 8 mile an hour wind on faster snow, like that speed would just keep building and building. And I didn't feel that top end like I did with the Matrix. And also, they talk about it having a low side pull, and I definitely noticed that. So as you're increasing your speed, you don't feel like you're getting drugged downwind. I've just noticed in general too, like on jumps, like to get the most float and stuff, it likes to carry speed through that too. So if you're gonna get your floatiest jumps, I found that happens when you keep a little forward motion going. And so it's almost like the difference between a speed wing and a paraglider. I found it's a lot of fun. Like I had a boatload of fun with the 16-meter Impulse up in the Bighorns, just doing these nice fast jumps with it where you're carrying the speed down the hill, and it's a ton of fun like that. So first point of a distinctive on the Impulse, I would say speed. Second one is just they're a super easy kite to fly, and almost to the beginner level. And that is one thing they mention in the literature for this kite too, is they say it's a kite that progresses with you. And I think what they mean is at the lower speeds, there isn't as much lift with this kite as say like a Montana. But as you start getting better and you start getting more comfortable with the speed of the kite, you start unlocking the lift and the power of the kite. So it does truly grow with you in that sense. As you know, as a beginner, you're going to probably be in the lighter winds and the lower ranges of the kite, and it's very docile in those situations. However, as you get better and more comfortable with it, it truly does kind of unlock with you. So for example, I had the 10-meter out on the ocean down in South Padre Island in about 30 knot winds, pretty high, and at that point when you pulled the handlebar, it just took a little bit and you were gone. I mean, and you were floating for a long time. And at those levels, it's a super fun floaty kite. At the lower levels, it does not have as much lift as say a Montana. So it's going to be a little bit easier for a beginner in that case. So that's when they talk about a kite that grows with you. That's kind of what I see they mean by that. Yeah, stability in general is awesome with this kite. I've had the 7-meter up in the mountains in gusty conditions that were pretty sharp. It handled those really well. When you're fully depowered, like with the trim all the way in and fully depowered, it does a great job. It doesn't frontal collapse, it just stays rock solid. So it is a really stable kite. The other part of it is, I found I'm totally comfortable using this kite in the mountains, where at first I was a little bit concerned about having previous experience with closed cells in the mountains. They have, I would call it kind of the pillow effect, where you bring it down and it just kind of wants, because there's so much surface area there, it can be a little overwhelming. I was really pleasantly surprised with how well the Empulse deflates in the mountains when you bring it down. So it felt really pretty close to an open cell in my estimation. The other thing is it's a great kite in light winds. So because it's made out of 20D and 30D fabrics, it's kind of a combination of lightweight fabrics, and I think you're going to find it's comparable to a lot of the ultralight designs and some of the other brands, and so it really does do well. Like even the 7 meter will go up really pretty easy in even an 8-knot wind, and so because of the lightweight of the kite, it's going to do exceptionally well in those light winds. For the guys who are now on water foils, you can go out, and a lot of times here in the summertime, you know, we'll have winds but they drop out, and I've seen this even on the Matrix kites. The one thing I do love about these closed cell foils is they will stay locked up, staying in the air when the tube kites are falling out of the sky. So I think they definitely had that in mind when they were making the Empulse too. I guess how I would end in saying is, who is this kite for? I think the people who are really going to like this kite will be folks, someone who's looking for a little bit of speed, who wants to start getting a taste of a faster wing, and that likes to go fast, but they don't necessarily want the complexity or the price of a higher end full-out race kite. I think they're going to love it. I think the guy who is a person who wants to get into foil kites, who's been transitioning from, say, a tube kite experience and wants just a really easy kite, I think they're going to love this kite. It's super easy to use. I think the transition will go really quickly for them, and it's going to be great. For foil boarders, it was designed intentionally for foil boarders in mind. I also think it's going to be a great buggy kite, because of the fact that it's not super aggressive in the lift. I think it's going to be great for the buggier, especially like the 7 meter, because it is so fast. I think you're going to see some really crazy speeds coming out of this kite, and I'm kind of excited to see what people do with that. Last, and probably the most important for me, is the guy who wants a kind of a do-it-all kite, one that they can take into the mountains, one that's going to pack up small, but also that they can use on water. I think this is an ideal kite for them. It really is stable in the mountains. It packs down small, like an ultralight kite, and yet it has a great lot of versatility on the water too. So for that kind of guy, it does seem like HQ4 is really starting to close the gap on the difference between open cells, closed cells, and tube kites, and get a kite that really everyone can use. So who would this kite not be for? I would say the person this kite is probably not for is a person who's looking for a kite with explosive lift. Really the only thing I can think of. If you're looking for something like that, I would recommend the HQ4 Topaz, which has phenomenal pop to it. It's a kite looping machine. It's definitely good for freestyle. The Montana's still hard to beat in terms of like power and lift per dollar. If you're a guy who's going to be solely on snow and land, it really is. I'm still a huge fan of the Montana. And it does have a little more lift, I would say, at the low end than the Empulse does. So if that's kind of more your thing and more what you're looking for, I would kind of go those two ways for a kite like that. Yeah, so here's a quick look at the bridles on the Empulse. You can see they got kind of a standard double pulley configuration. Like I said, one of the big differences between the Matrix is that they did color code and use sheathing on their bridles. So I have found that that helps with tangles, and it's just easier to see the lines when they're in the snow. Let's go ahead and take a look. We'll walk down to the inlets and take a look at those two. So, as with the Matrix, we've got this zippered back end here. And this is how you get in, if you need to, in the closed cell configuration, how you'll deflate the kite. It's also how you go through and reach in and grab the inlets. So the way the variable inlets work is you kind of roll those up, and then you have these Velcro straps that kind of hold those rolled in. So right now, for the winter season, I've got them rolled up nice and neat and put away. Like I said, it does do an excellent job of evacuating the air when you bring it down. It also inflates really well too, so I've been really happy with that. But on the 7 meter and the 10 meter, we have 4 inlets. On the 13 and 16, there's 6 inlets total. So this has always really worked really well. If you want to take a look at the front side, Inlets do have a little bit of mesh on the front that you can see. So, other things, I guess small things. We've got dirt outs over here. So on each wingtip, we've got a small dirt out, really simple, lightweight, but it'll evacuate, you know, if you get sand or snow in there. The mesh does do a good job of keeping most of that out, but sometimes you'll get a little bit in there. So you can just pop those open. You can also, you know, if you're learning, you can keep these open and it'll act a little bit like a safety valve in case you're afraid that you're gonna accidentally tomahawk the kite while you're learning and crash it. You might consider just keeping those open so you don't burst the kite. But overall construction on the kite is super solid. I think you're gonna find the quality on these newer HQ4 kites is on par with anything else that's out there in the market. So been really happy with that. Yeah, so that's it for today, guys. Hope that was a little helpful for you guys who were wondering about this kite. If you got any questions, go ahead and contact me at coloradokitesports.com.